Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining this stream. And many thanks to all the members of our community who will join later on or will watch this stream in a recording. Today is 10th of August. Now it's 11 o'clock Moscow time, and as always, I have prepared a news segment for you with all the main news that on major developments that Russian media and public is talking about or pays attention to. And well, today's stream is not ordinary stream. It's a big community chat, traditional Sunday community chat. So after news segment, I will be actively engaged there with with the chat, and I will try my best to be informative in my comments and answers to potential questions if I see them. And dear friends, to make it a little easier, please, if you want to highlight question or the comment during the stream, use capital letters, at least capital Q. That will make it a little easier to spot, right? And also you can use what is the name? A super chat feature, by the way, on Rumble for to make sure that I'm not gonna miss your question or the comment. Okay, that's been said, dear friends. Let's go through some news now. Enough for intro. And first of all, I give you this report from RIA Novosti, which is based on this morning's update from Russian Defense Ministry that during the nighttime, our defense systems on duty intercepted 121 drones that was launched by Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky to strike deep into Russian territory. I can give you specifics and the geography of these launches. So 29 drones were intercepted over the Krasnodar Krai, 15 drones over the Crimea, 13 over the Bryansk region, 12 over the Belgorod, 9 over Voronezh, 8 each over the Saratov region and the Stavropol Krai, 7 in the Kaluga region, 6 in Tula, 5 in Rostov, 4 in Ryazan, 2 over the Sea of Azov, 1 each over the Smolensk, Oryol, and the Tver regions. Vast area, by the way, that was targeted by Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, with obviously with the assistance of NATO. And unfortunately, geography of these strikes or attempts, at least, to strike deep into Russian territory is increasing significantly, especially lately. In the last month or two, we are clearly observing significant increase in this regards. Russian air defense systems, of course, are doing their best to intercept as many aerial targets as possible, but unfortunately, it is practically impossible to intercept all aerial targets 100% at a time on daily basis. And unfortunately, this morning, a number of Telegram channels reported that as a result of Kiev regime's strike, oil refinery was damaged and caught fire in Saratov. And on your screen right now, you can see a picture of that oil refinery being on fire. You can see smoke is coming out. I shared video on my Telegram and Twitter X pages this morning about it. Unfortunately, as a result of strikes in Saratov direction, at least one civilian was killed and several wounded. This is preliminary data. During the day, we might receive some additional information on that. And of course, I will share this additional information on my Telegram and Twitter X pages. Also, Russian armed forces obviously are conducting retaliatory strikes on military and logistical infrastructure of this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. And so last night, for example, Russian drones were attacking strategical targets in mainly five regions. These regions are Dnipropetrovsk, Kharkov, and Poltava, also Chernigov and Zaporozhye, Kiev-controlled parts of Zaporozhye region. And just a few minutes before I launched this live stream, a number of sources reported that there was a strikes also in the Sumy region. Allegedly, administrative building in Sumy was targeted by Russian militaries. Later on today, maybe we will learn some more information about specifics of these strikes and how successful these strikes were. Also, dear friends, TASS news agency is reporting, based on Russian Defense Ministry's announcement or update, that Russian armed forces liberated settlement of Yablonovka in a DPR. This is a settlement on the southern western flank of Konstantinovka settlement. You can see area of this village, by the way, on your screen right now. So progress of the Russian armed forces continues, obviously, on the line of contact. And also yesterday, Russian Defense Ministry reported that Russian air defense systems intercepted Kiev regime's Su-27 fighter jet. I believe a fighter jet was intercepted in Zaporozhye region. Also, dear friends, obviously, we have to talk about upcoming some meeting, let's say, between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, that probably will take place in Alaska, although I'm still skeptical, by the way, that such a meeting will actually happen. But nevertheless, both sides, U.S. administration and Kremlin, are preparing these meetings, and all sorts of speculations are circulating on internet. Many of you are familiar, obviously, with this. Although somehow some members of community missed this information about planned meeting in Alaska. I saw a question in a chat this morning, and one of the members were asking, is it true that such a meeting was prepared? And yes, it is true, by the way. Trump himself made an announcement about it. You can see on your screen right now post of the Donald Trump on his Truth Social, where he said that on August 15, on Friday, there will be meeting in Alaska between him and Putin. Of course, I spoke about it yesterday. There is no need to repeat myself on that, but yet again, questions are now, what will they talk about in Alaska if such a meeting will actually take place? And I draw a couple of points on this matter this morning. Obviously, they're going to talk about Ukrainian crisis. Temporary ceasefire most likely will be a topic of discussion. Potential territorial exchange that Trump himself announced as a part of whatever agreement might be reached, and potentially de facto recognition of the Russian control over the at least parts of new Russian regions that are under physical control of the Russian Federation. Some humanitarian aspects might actually also be discussed, not just in regards to Ukrainian crisis, but also in terms of relationships between US and Russia. Maybe sides will agree on release of some prisoners, Russian prisoners that are held in US, and US citizens that are imprisoned in Russia. It might happen, right? Also, I think it is highly likely that sides might use the opportunity and of face-to-face meeting and exchange opinions on a strategical arms control issue. Some time ago, Trump actually mentioned this topic on one of his tweets. Also, I think as a part of potential wider agreement on Ukrainian crisis and on terms of improving bilateral relationships, Trump might announce potential partial lifting of sanctions on Russia, possibly even unfreezing of some Russian assets. Also, most likely, sides will discuss potential cooperation in economical terms in energy sector, for example, oil, gas, maybe even coal, who knows, other minerals, including rare earth materials that Trump is fixated, kind of. But main question that I have personally, if such a meeting will take place, I wonder how Russian president gonna take anything that comes out from Trump or his team seriously. How Russian side can trust anything that will be said by Trump or his administration representatives, or anything that they will sign up for. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think they should be trusted ever, right? But yet again, this is dilemma that the Russian president have to deal now, uh, 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 because he agreed on such a meeting, isn't it? That makes no sense whatsoever, by the way. It's a total waste of time, in my personal opinion. But nevertheless, if meeting will take place, then Russian president gonna decide for himself. I mean, does he really trust her, these people, Trump and whomever will be with him there, or not? Because does he really wants to say sometime in the future that, well, he was lied about, he did not knew that he would be lied about, as he said, by the way, in regards to Minsk One, Minsk Two agreements. Whole Russian society, I mean, majority of Russian society was skeptical of those agreements, and somehow Putin did trust his Western counterparts, right? And then he had to admit that, well, he was lied to and misled. Okay, let Russian president deal with this dilemma, by the way. But well, Zelensky is already trashing, by the way, Trump's peace terms. And we have this report on that Vladimir Zelensky has rejected U.S. President Donald Trump's call for territorial concessions to Russia, claiming no such agreement would be accepted by the Ukrainian people. And so, yes, yesterday there was a, as I mentioned in yesterday's first update, meeting was planned in UK between representatives of Kiev regime, UK, obviously, France, Germany, I believe someone from Italy also participated. And they were basically globalist controlled regimes, by the way. European regimes are, their representatives get together and discuss all these latest developments because they are not happy, right? Because they want to be in charge. Globalists want to be in charge of the processes, right? They don't want to, neither US or any other third party to be to lead this process, and therefore they come up with some proposals that, according to their statements, Trump should take in account 100%, right? As if Trump is their puppet. Like, that's the tone that they use, actually. That Trump is their puppet, and he have to his position has to be based on whatever these globalists are demanding. But nevertheless, as I said, Zelensky already said that this topic of territorial exchange or the concessions is unacceptable for him. And that means this topic is unacceptable for globalists, because who the hell is Zelensky, right? He's just truly a puppet, isn't it? And when it comes to Trump's statements about territory, what he said basically was that as far as territories go, there may be some exchanges. Trump said in response to a question from the reporters 2 days ago, isn't it? That was in White House, and rumors are on internet that Russia might allegedly, Russia might withdraw forces from Sumy and the Kharkov region in exchange of territories that Kiev regime still controls in a DPR, for example. LPR, there is only some forestry areas where Kiev regime might have some presence. All the settlements, according to reports, are under Russian control. But in the DPR, there is a quite significant number of big and small settlements that are still controlled by Kiev regime, including Pokrovsk, Mirnograd, Kramatorsk, Slavyansk, Konstantinovka. That's towns, by the way. Nothing to be said about dozens and dozens of villages, right? And yes, rumors are that Russia might withdraw from Kharkov, from Sumy, and the Kiev regime will withdraw from DPR. Nothing, but not from Zaporozhye and the Kherson region. Allegedly, Trump's plan that was presented to Russian president when Witkov was visiting Moscow a couple of days ago includes Zaporozhye city and Kherson city to remain under Kiev's control. And I really struggle to believe that Russian president agree on that, because how he can agree on on something that is clearly unconstitutional, right? If I said, by the way, that Russia should give up some territories, I would be jailed for that. It's illegal here in Russia to advocate for territories to be transferred to some third party or whatever, right? So how Russian president can agree on such a thing, I don't know. But yet again, this is all speculations that are coming from the West. Russian side did not really provided public with any details whatsoever about either negotiations that took place between Putin and Witkov, or the initiative that Trump presented through Witkov to Russian president. So therefore, all we can discuss is all these speculations that are coming from the West exclusively, right? In any ways, if this meeting will take place, we will find out in a couple of days what proposals were made, what sides were discussing and will discuss in Alaska, right? Also, speculations continues on the topic if will Zelensky be present at this meeting or not. For example, NBC earlier reported that U.S. is considering inviting Zelensky to Putin-Trump meeting in Alaska next Friday. But same time, Washington Post, for example, is reporting that Zelensky not invited to Putin-Trump meeting. So, I mean, you tell me which one is true, right? You tell me which one is true. Yesterday, I did share the short video when Trump himself was saying that he has no demand from for Putin, that he has to meet with Zelensky necessarily before Trump-Putin meeting will take place. So, I don't know. Maybe Zelensky will show up in Alaska. Maybe not. Russian president just day before yesterday stated that he has no issue with a meeting with Zelensky, face-to-face meeting with Zelensky, if certain agreements will be reached. But he don't want to waste time and met Zelensky just to have a simple talk or whatever. Talk's not going to be simple between these two anyways, but nevertheless, if there is no agreement in the place, Russian president don't want to waste time talking with Zelensky. But let's see. It's only 5 days left, isn't it? And we will find out if Zelensky will show up there in Alaska, and if even Russian president visit the U.S. But meanwhile, our media is reporting that they have learned about EU and Kiev's proposal for Trump-Putin talk. So European countries and Ukraine have presented their proposal, which they believe could serve as a basis for upcoming talks between Russian President Vladimir Putin and his American counterpart, Donald Trump. Yet again, you see, Tom, by the way, these globalist controlled regimes in Europe come up with their terms that could serve as a basis for negotiations between Trump and Putin, between presidents of U.S. and Russia. And last time I checked, neither of these countries were part of this European coalition, let's say, right? But nevertheless, let me give you some details. So European powers and Ukraine responded to Vladimir Putin's ceasefire plan. It's not Vladimir Putin's ceasefire plan, by the way, it's a Trump ceasefire plan. Vladimir Putin's ceasefire plan, or plan to resolve the issue on the long terms, is known for a very long time now. At least one might take a look at the statements of the Russian president from July, that was 14th, if I remember correctly, of 2024, when he was having a meeting with the leadership of Russian Foreign Ministry. That's when the Russian president personally presented in quite a detailed roadmap, Russian vision of the roadmap towards the sustainable peace, right? And everything that now is being talked in the media or by public figures, either in US or Russia or in Europe, is a Trump's plan. It was a Trump's initiative, US initiative, to hold this meeting, face-to-face meeting with between Trump and Putin. Russian side did not ask for it, right? And the aide of Russian President Ushakov was very clear on that. That initiative is coming from the US, and the Russian side find such a meeting to take place, interesting and acceptable. So it's not Putin's ceasefire plan; it's a Trump's ceasefire plan, right? Some might say Kellogg's ceasefire plan or whatever, but it's not Putin's, because Putin's plan is known for a very long time now, right? But nevertheless, European powers and Ukraine responded to Vladimir Putin's ceasefire plan on a Saturday with their counter proposal. They said would serve as a basis for upcoming talks between Trump and the Russian leader. According to publication sources, the proposal was put forward today. I mean, yesterday. This report is from yesterday. As I said, there was a meeting in UK, right? So this plan was proposed yesterday in Great Britain. The European proposal includes a requirement that a ceasefire must be reached before any other steps are taken. It is also says that the exchange of territories can only be on reciprocal basis. The publication writes, the plan was presented to U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Trump's special envoy Kat Kellogg and Steve Witkoff. European plan stipulates that any territorial concessions by Kiev must be protected by the ironclad security guarantees, including Ukraine's potential membership in NATO, the newspaper specified. So yes, they are demanding, by the way, security guarantees from US. And RIA Novosti is also reporting on that Europe and Ukraine demand security guarantees from Washington. And I don't know, maybe they will have these guarantees. Maybe they will not. But either way, we're going to find out, by the way. We're going to find out. RIA Novosti is also reporting that coalition of willing does not want to send troops to Ukraine. According to media reports, the coalition of the willing does not want to send troops to Ukraine. Sunday Times writes, citing a senior official at their British Ministry of Defense. Given that no one wants to send troops to die in Ukraine, it's about making sure that the Ukrainians can do something more, prepare for federal confrontation with Russia. The article said, okay, today they don't want to send the troops, yesterday they did, tomorrow they might change mind again. So you never know. With the Western ruling elites, Western ruling class, you just never know, by the way. You cannot trust them. Only thing you know for sure, you cannot trust them. That's it, right? Interfax is also reporting that Europe is ready to continue financial and military support for Kiev, and the pressure on Russia. Why am I not super surprised? So Europe welcomes the diplomatic efforts of US President Donald Trump to resolve the Ukrainian conflict, but believes that the success can only be achieved with continued military and financial support for Ukraine. The leaders of several European countries and the EU stated, and I don't think any of us had any doubts that globally is going to continue, by the way, this escalation against Russia, this proxy war against Russia, even if certain agreements will be reached between Washington and Moscow. Because for globalists, as far as I can tell, this proxy war against Russia has existential meaning, because I think they are realizing that without resources, they're going to lose. They are already losing competition, isn't it, on the world stage? And without resources, they would not be able to maintain their influence in this world. I mean, globalists, right? And they see Russia as a cheaper source of these resources, not just energy, but everything else, right? Russia is the richest country in this world, by the way, with all sorts of natural resources. And therefore, globalists were very clear, and globalist control regimes in Europe, their representatives were very clear that they want to destroy Russia. They want some of their high-ranking officials among these globalist control regimes in Europe even stated openly that they are seeking disintegration of Russia in 5, 7, 10 parts, right? Because it will be easier for them to then control and rob everything and everybody, right? So global is going to continue, by the way. Global is going to continue this assault on Russia anyways, no matter what agreement might or may not be reached by between U.S. and the Russian Federation, and because of this position of globalists, obviously there is a high risk. There is a high risk that they will try to derail talks between Putin and Trump. They might come up with all sorts of provocations. I'm not going to speculate on that. Unfortunately, they have a quite a choice, right? Quite capabilities to do literally almost anything, right? Directly or indirectly. So therefore, I will only say that yes, there is a high probability that they will be engaged in some sort of provocations in upcoming days to derail these talks. And the very same statement was very similar statement was made by aide of Russian president and senior negotiator with US, Dmitriev. So countries with vested interests in prolonging the Ukraine conflict will likely go to great length to derail their planned meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and his American counterpart Donald Trump. Moscow's senior negotiator Kirill Dmitriev warned on yesterday, and he is correct. He is correct. Obviously, let's see if globalists and their control regimes will dare to escalate on such a scale that they will actually manage to derail these talks. Unfortunately, as I said, they have a means to do so. Only question is if they will actually go ahead with their provocations, which might happen. We will find out in next several days. Also, interesting report, by the way, from UK, from Guardian there, a media outlet, that Britain's MOD was hiding radioactive water leaks into Scotland Sea for years. Polluted water from nuclear bomb base flowed near Glasgow after Royal Navy repeatedly failed to fix 1,500 or 1,500 water pipes, says Watchdog. Info was hidden for national security reasons. So I don't know, man, if you are living somewhere near Glasgow, just, this information will be especially important for you. I saw some additional reports that, this leakage was not on some drastic levels, and radiation levels or contamination levels are not catastrophic, but nevertheless, it's radiation, by the way, right? It's a toxic waste was flowing into the sea, and people were kept in dark by British defense ministries. It is what it is, man. Also, dear friends, few more news. RT is reporting that Armenia and Azerbaijan, as you know, I reported about it, but I have follow-up news on that, so I will repeat that Armenia and Azerbaijan yesterday signed their Trump-backed peace declaration. It's only a declaration, by the way, that don't really means nothing. Just both sides are taking some obligations before US that they will follow this declaration, but yet again, from legal standpoint, they don't have to do nothing, right? If they want to, it's only statement. But this declaration that was advertised big time by Washington, even presented as a sort of a breakthrough, and some media even went to say that Trump brokered yet another peace treaty between conflicting sides, which is false, by the way, false information. Trump didn't broke nothing, although based on reports that we are receiving, Probably Armenia will transfer control of the Zangezur corridor that connects mainland Azerbaijan with Nakhichevan autonomous region that is encircled, basically has no land bridge with Azerbaijan, and encircled by Armenia one side, Turkey another, and I believe it borders Iran too, right? And so allegedly U.S. companies, private military companies, most likely will take control over the Zangezur corridor. Obviously, you're gonna see, if true, then you're gonna see military bases there. You're gonna see intelligence assets, infrastructure built there, because it's right next to Iran, by the way. It's right next to Iran's border, right? And that's why we are receiving reports that Tehran opposes this corridor through Armenia. So Tehran opposes the creation of the corridor through Armenia, supported by U.S. President Donald Trump, which would connect Azerbaijan with Nakhichevan's Sadr, advisor to Iran's supreme leader, Ali Akbar Valaiti. His words are quoted by the Iranian Tasnim news agency. Relations in this region are, this is quote by the way, are not limited to two countries, Azerbaijan and Armenia. Geopolitical changes in the southern Caucasus are also shifting Iran's borders. So we have the right to defend our interests in the most decisive way. The implementation of this plot threatens the security of the southern Caucasus, and accordingly, Iran has emphasized that it will move towards ensuring the security of the southern Caucasus, regardless of whether with Russia or without it. And of course, we believe that Russia is also strategically against this corridor, he said. And yes, I can understand logic behind this statement from Tehran, but yet again, what either Tehran or Moscow can do about it? That's the question. Armenia is controlled, by the way, by Washington, mainly, right? Pashinyan, Prime Minister of Armenia, is a CIA puppet, right? Soros client and CIA puppet. And when it comes to Azerbaijan, well, Baku, for a long time, by the way, operates under strict control of Ankara and London. There are also connections with Israel, but when it comes to actual control, obviously it's Ankara and London, right? And Ankara did play quite often and continues to play role of British proxy, not just in Southern Caucasus region, but also in Central Asia and elsewhere too. Ties between British political, military, intelligence, and Turkish elites are well known historically, not just now, but historically, right? So therefore, yes, I can understand from where Iran is coming from, but yet again, what can either Tehran or Moscow do? I mean, not much, really. And we have Russian Foreign Ministry's reaction too, dear friends, on this development. Let me give you some details on that. So the meeting of the leadership of Armenia and Azerbaijan in the United States deserves a positive assessment, but their involvement of extra-regional players should not create additional difficulties, said the official representative of the Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova. And this is quite telling, isn't it? That's the Moscow's reaction, by the way. Moscow may don't like it, but yet again, there is not that much that Moscow can do, actually, at this point at least. And same goes for Iran. Same goes for Iran. What else do I have, dear friends, for this, I hope, shorter news segment? So U.S. debt, dear friends, surged past $37 trillion for the first time in history, rising $750 billion since the July 4 signing of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. That means that every single day, by the way, US national debt is increasing on $22 billion. $22 billion, by the way, every single day. That's the level that US debt is increasing, which is, I don't know, crazy. Absolutely crazy, but it is what it is, isn't it? And because there is not even slight chance, at least for now, and the near future, that we will see some actual reforms in the US economy. Therefore, no one should expect situation to change drastically. US will continue to borrow and borrow and borrow, and at some point, US will reach the level when it would not be able to serve this debt, right? They are already spending $1 trillion every freaking year just for service of this debt. So give it another, I don't know, 10, 15 years, 20 years, and probably that will be it for US, right? They would not be able to service this debt. And, well, what is the way that US might actually resolve to deal with this situation too, by the way? Maybe global war? Most likely. Most likely. Anyways, I'm gonna end the news segment on that, dear friends. I did spoke about this Trump-Putin meeting yesterday quite a lot, isn't it? I don't think there is necessary to repeat myself today. Also, I'm skeptical of that meeting. I don't think it's a good idea to go to Alaska to visit US. Especially because it's impossible, absolutely impossible, to have a trust in representatives of collective West, being no matter it's US or UK or France or Germany or whichever other country. By the way, you just cannot trust them, right? Period. So therefore, I don't really understand why Russian president is intended to waste his time. Why he's engaged in these games, but nevertheless, we will see. We will see what is going on. Maybe, by the way, after all, maybe some agreements will be reached between Moscow and Washington. Hard to tell if Washington will honor these agreements. Most likely not. But in any case, globalists and globalist control regimes in Europe not gonna stop. And therefore, I don't know. I don't know what to, or to be, more precise. I do know what to expect, man, but I'm not gonna go in that topic now. Anyways, I'm monitoring chat now, dear friends. If I see any question or the comment that you want to be highlighted, I will do this. There was any super chat? Oh, dear friends, let me highlight that this morning, before stream began, there was a donation on Boosty from Barney, and we have a comment from Barney. Hi, Levan, I agree with you. As a Slav Christian Orthodox born in the Western, they have it. They hate, or they have it in for us. They hate us. They hate our faith and the strength what we stand for. They are jealous and always will be. Deep down, Barney commented, and I have to agree. I mean, by they he means Western elites, of course, and I have to agree with Barney. Thank you very much for 1,500 ruble donation. This is $20 in US currency. Thank you very much, Barney, for donation, and I have to agree with you. Absolutely, Western ruling elites, they hate Orthodox Christianity, obviously, and they hate Russia. They hate Slavs, by the way. They are afraid that Slavic people will unite Slavic people, and there are peoples that are brotherly with the Slavic people will get united. This is, in that case, can you imagine how dominant this union can be, right, on the Eurasian continent, on a scale of world tour? And London, by the way, and Germany and France and Vatican, by the way, for centuries did whatever they could, and others, to divide Slavic people. And unfortunately, they did it quite effectively. They did achieve some success in that. And take a look at the state of relationships between Slavic people. Almost every Slavic country hates another one, usually neighbor. What happened in Yugoslavia, by the way? There was brotherly nations that were killing each other, right? Who provoked that war, that civil war inside the Serbian world, I will say, or Slavic world? West did, right? Look what they provoked between Russia and this creation of Bolsheviks, Ukraine. Look what they did to Poland, by the way. Look what Western world, from Vatican to London to others, did to Poland. You know, Polish people almost forgot their roots, and they are trying hard. They are trying hard to act as if they are not Slavs at all. At least that's the impression that I get, which is unfortunate, by the way, because they are Slavs, right? So, but they are no longer Orthodox Christians, by the way. Majority of Poles are Catholics, right? And how? How come? Who did that to Poles? Vatican? West, isn't it? Anyways, yes, unfortunately, Slavic world is divided big time, and I see no ways now, by the way, to say that I see no indicators to say that it is realistic in foreseeable future to see unification of the Slavic people that are brothers, actually, right? Brotherly nations, but and we have donation from Nathan on PayPal. Thank you very much, Nathan, for your $20 donation. Comment is there. Thank you for your hard work, Levan. Thank you very much, Nathan, for your support, for your attention. I appreciate it. Thank you. And so yes, I mean I understand what Barney is saying, absolutely. And I'm scrolling now, dear friends, through chat, and today is a community chat, isn't it? That's why a new segment was quite shorter. And after all, yesterday I had quite a big new segment. Main topic is still the same, by the way. Is Trump-Putin planned a meeting, and only so much can be said about it, right? And so. Yes, that's the question that I was talking about. Movie Collection Channel report, was asking, is it official that Putin will meet Trump in Alaska? Intention is there, yes. There was a statement, official statements that such a meeting should take place, but will it happen or not? We just don't know, because globalist control regimes will most likely try to derail such talks, right? With their all sorts of provocations in upcoming days, because let's take a look at the situation, by the way, inside the Western world, right? Let's discuss this topic a little bit. If anybody thinks that globalists are happy that US is at least under the current administration is conducting somewhat, by the way, partially at least, independent policies from globalists, then, well, that's a mistake. Globalists are not happy about it. They want complete control, right? And during the Biden's administration, they had this complete control, right? Because Democrats are globalists, right? Democrats are globalist assets. And they have assets in the deep state. They have allies among neocons, obviously. But nevertheless, time to time, there is some glimpse of some independent moves from Washington, and this makes globalists crazy, right? And why is that? Point is that if let's have a thought experiment, if Washington and Moscow actually reached agreement to cooperate, right, in an energy field, for example, in other fields, right, what will happen is that U.S. basically will become a middleman between Russia and Europe, right? So U.S. will have a leverage over Europe, no other way around. And you think why U.S. was attacking India, by the way, these days, this hard, and why Trump increased tariffs on India from 25 to 50%? Why they are focused on oil that India buys from Russia? Maybe because U.S. itself wants to be this middleman, right? To buy Russian oil and then resell this oil to Europeans and to everyone else, so that U.S. on one hand will have a certain leverage with Russia as a main middleman in the foreign trade, let's say in energy field or field of natural resources, right? And on the other hand, the U.S. will have also leverage over the Europe. And I remind you, dear friends, that Trump just a few days ago forced Ursula von der Leyen, European Commission president, to agree on a deal with US, according to which US will provide EU with LNG, for example, or energy, let's say, for 250 billion. How US gonna provide Europe with such volumes of energy when it does not has so much gas or oil or whatever? Maybe Washington was already thinking that, you know what, let's force Brussels to agree on that, right? Let's make them extremely dependent on our supplies. And yes, we don't have enough export capabilities of oil and gas right now, but we can reach an agreement with Russia, right? And we can buy Russian oil and gas and resell it to Europe. And this way, we will have some leverage over the both. And same time, by the way, on top of that, we will divert Russian energy flow from a global south towards very same Europe or other parts of this world, right? Which will harm China, which will harm India, which will harm global south, by the way, that being seen by the West in general as a main competitor, right? Do I have is my vision is logical enough? Because US itself, by the way, cannot provide EU with either LNG or oil for 250 billion every freaking year for next 3 years that this agreement will be in place. US just have no such volumes. But if US will become a middleman and resell Russian energy, then US capabilities will, of course, increase dramatically in that case, right? So, of course, globalists are not going to be happy about this. If I see this possibility, they see it too, right? And why would they allow this to happen? Why would they allow US political class that sometimes are their allies, sometimes not, to have additional leverage over the Europe? So therefore, I think Dmitriev is correct, aide of Russian president and this top negotiator. There is a high probability that globalist control regimes in Europe that are focused on prolongation of this proxy war will do whatever they can to actually derail these talks, right? So therefore, maybe my skepticism is based on not baseless. That talk between Trump and Putin might not happen. I think, by the way, this development, if things will develop in a way that I just said, by the way, I think this will be feedback for Russia. In my personal opinion, this will be feedback for emerging multipolar world, for BRICS, and that's why yesterday I said that to me personally, BRICS is dead. By the way, multipolar world is dead because without Russia, there is no multipolar world. Without Russia, there is no BRICS, by the way, because R is a Russia in that organization, right? So without Russia, there is none of it. And unfortunately, it seems like because Russia was standing alone against this assault from the collective West, and because BRICS member states or the countries of the multipolar world did not actually provided Russia with enough assistance to be in a position to continue this struggle against this evil force that Western ruling class is in a long term, right? It's already 3+ years, by the way, right? Because Russia was alone, basically, in this struggle. Well, Moscow seems like not really has much options now, right? Russian leadership has to be pragmatic. How long Moscow can sustain this war, by the way? I see some reports in Western media that, European economies are maybe bigger, but they cannot compete with the Russian military-industrial complex, and U.S. economy may be bigger, but cannot compete with the Russian military-industrial complex, and therefore Russia has a leverage. I mean, let's be real, dear friends. Let's be real, Yes, Russian military-industrial complex was mobilized. Russian economy was mobilized relatively fast. But let's not make mistake, by the way. If Russia can do this, European economies can do this also, and U.S. economy can do this also. And let's not underestimate capabilities of these economies. I said yesterday that combined GDP of collective West is 50+ trillion, right? And Russian GDP is like 3 trillion plus, around that. So we cannot ignore objective realities, right? Yes, today Russia is competing quite successfully with the military-industrial complex of the West, but once Western economies will get mobilized, difference is gonna be tremendous, by the way. Let's not fool ourselves, right? And Russian leadership knows that, and Russian president, I believe, was even spoke about this, isn't it? Even spoke about this, a few months ago, and he was actually comparing, I believe, capabilities of collective West and Russia. And I think that message was ignored or misunderstood by the BRICS member states. That message was misunderstood by countries that want to see multipolar world. Russia did not ask for help. Yes, but do your friends really need to ask you for help for you to provide assistance? I don't think so, isn't it? When you see that your friend is in trouble and needs some help, you will provide. If you are a good friend, by the way, you will provide this help on your own, right? Without any additional asks. And the BRICS member states did not do it. And that's why I think now Moscow is in a position when there is no much option but to risk, basically, take a risk to reach agreements with US and continue from there. Because yet again, Russia was fighting alone, and this should not happen. Russia should not be alone, but it is what it is, man. I mean, share your take, what you think about it. There was a super chat, dear friends. Let me highlight super chat on Rumble from Rumble. Uh, just a sec, dear friends. So yes, I'm highlighting super chat right now. Oh, that's the super chatter. Dimodos Cutter. Thank you very much for your super chat for $5 donation and for your comment, which is that thanks for your honest reporting. Uh, Thank you very much once again. I appreciate your support and your attention. Truly grateful for that. Thank you, thank you. And so let's continue, dear friends. As always, as always, dear friends, capital letters will make it easy to spot your question. I see now. I spot my name, by the way. So uh, Arcane Eclectic is commenting. Hey, Levan, I heard that when Ursula von der Leyen heard the news about the Putin-Trump summit in Alaska, she was so mad she threw a chair through her office window. Yeah, funny. I mean, she probably was very upset, obviously. I mean, globalists not going to be happy about it because, as I just explained, my vision of the situation, if things will develop this way that I just spoke about, then US will gain certain leverage, additional leverage over Europe, and there are certain leverage over Russia too, because if US is a middleman when it comes to Russian exports of all sorts of minerals or natural resources, then obviously in that case, US will have a certain leverage, isn't it? I mean, we cannot ignore that objective fact. But yeah, the Europeans gonna be definitely not European elites, by the way. Of course, I'm not talking about ordinary people like us. I'm talking about elites there. They're gonna be very mad about these developments, and probably they will try to derail this possible meeting between Trump and Putin. Still, I mean, why Alaska? By the way, why? Ah, anyways, I spoke about this yesterday so much that there is no point to repeat. Also, I see a comment from William. The neocons of the USA and the European elites will do everything to scupper their Alaska meeting. Lasting to Trump, talking of land swap shows how little he knows. Exchange of lands will be one way. William, I'm on the same page. I think globalists and their neocon allies will do anything and everything they can to derail these talks, for sure. And unfortunately, as I already said, I mean, there is they have means to do so. Unfortunately, risk that they will succeed in next several days is very high, and I really hope, and I'm quite sure, by the way, it's not just a hope, but I'm quite sure Russian security services and their militaries will do their best to protect society, by the way, from all possible society and the country, by the way, from whatever provocations globalists, neocons, and their assets gonna come up with. But they will be attempt for sure. I mean, hardly we can doubt that. And also, William is commenting, Putin is right to engage there, even if there is no realistic chance of peace. Putin is right to engage. He is not going to say, I mean, yes, we should keep the door open for diplomacy, isn't it? I'm still skeptical because I'm supporter of the real politics, right? I'm supporter of steps that actually have meaning, uh, and I don't see um, high probability of uh, Washington becoming a trustworthy partner for Russia. It's impossible, right? Or let's say almost impossible. I mean, never say never. There is a say, isn't it? So, okay, I mean, it's almost impossible that Washington will ever become a trustworthy uh, negotiator or the partner in anything, right? But and therefore, I don't think Russian president should agree on such a meeting. Uh, if sides have something to talk about, there are different levels, right? That this type of conversations might take place. But yet again, I mean, it's not up to me, right? After all, Russian president decided that he's going to Alaska. Okay, okay. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Liman, Odessa must be given to Russia as well. Well, Odessa is out of question now, allegedly, according to speculations in Western media. I'm repeating, your friends, that there was no much reports here in Russia from Russian officials, right? No much information about what proposals Witkov came with. It's only speculations, and all the speculations are coming from the West. And according to some of the speculations that was published either in Bloomberg or in Wall Street Journal, in one of the big names in Western media, talks are that, as I already mentioned, Russia will withdraw from Kharkov region, from Sumy region. In exchange, Kiev region will withdraw its forces from DPR. So therefore, LPR and DPR will be under full Russian control. And according to those speculations, this exchange is not connected with Kherson and Zaporozhye, which means that allegedly Kherson, both cities, by the way, Kherson and Zaporozhye cities, will remain under Kiev control territory, and which is yet again totally unacceptable, right? Based on Russian constitution, these cities are Russian cities, and how can Russian president agree on occupation of the Russian territory by hostile? I don't know. I don't get it, right? We will find out soon, but in any ways, Odessa seems like is out of question now. Kharkov, Odessa, Nikolaev, and all the other regions seems like are out of question. And also, dear friend, there is not a single word, even in the West, by the way, in the Western uh, media, that Moscow was principally demanding absence of not NATO on Kiev-controlled territory. Yet again, this is Western speculations, right? This is coming from the West, and we should keep that in mind and take it with a pinch of salt. But I did not see in Russian media either statements from either Peskov or Putin himself or foreign ministry that Russia still stands strong on demand that Ukraine should be completely neutral. Maybe stands have been changed on that. I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. You know, I just don't know. Um, you know what I was saying, isn't it? For a very long time, that once this conflict will end, most likely Western Ukraine will end up being reclaimed by Poland, Hungary, and Romania, and the rest of the territory will be in a zone of Russian influence. From Kharkov and Odessa, I was quite sure will actually conduct referendums and will join Russia. That was my understanding of the situation. And maybe Kiev and surrounding few regions will maintain this landlocked quasi-state, yet again, in the zone of Russian influence exclusively. But things are changing, and very fast. Situation is changing and very fast. And if Russian leadership is seeking now end or the de-escalation, end of this special military operation and the de-escalation, then that means that Kharkov, Nikolaev, Odessa, Sumy, rest is out of question. But yet again, this is just we're just having a conversation, by the way. We don't know for sure what is going to happen. And if this conflict will stop on the current line of contact, let's say, or even if Russia will withdraw from Kharkov region, Sumy region, and the Kiev region will withdraw its forces from, let's say, DPR, and if rest of the territory controlled by Kiev regime will become NATO, then why on earth? What was the point of the special military operation? Yes, one will say, what, we liberated DPR part of and so on. Okay, I get that, but organization, the unification of Ukraine, are we going to forget about it or what? And so many casualties, by the way, so many casualties, so much destruction. Barner account is commenting, what the referendum, let the people decide. Yes, my hope was that that's exactly what is going to happen, that people will have an opportunity to vote in all these regions, right? In the Kharkov region, in Odessa region, Nikolaev region, Sumy region, Chernihiv region, everywhere, Dnipropetrovsk region. That was my hope, that people will have opportunity to vote, by the way. Just let them express their opinion. Maybe they want to be part of this creation of the Bolsheviks, Ukraine, and then in that case, you can do nothing. They want to be part of this nonsense, right? Okay, but if they want to be part of Russia, then they should have such opportunity, right? Because after all, it's their land, right? It's their home. But if no agreements will be reached and conflict will be frozen on the current line of contact, then no one gonna give opportunity to people of Odessa region or Nikolaev region or Kharkov or others to decide their future. Kiev regime will not give them such opportunity for sure. William is also commenting, Putin is not going to give up their 4 regions, or he does not want to enter. He knows it would be the end of him if he did. Don't worry about that. He constitutionally cannot give up on these territories because it's Russian territories. It's Russian territories, by the way, based on Russian constitution. So nobody, based on the law, by the way, anybody that will either promote idea of separating any territories from Russia or would support such ideas can actually get imprisoned. It's a chargeable offense. How should I say it in English? It's an offense for which you may end up in a prison. And I believe, no, you might get fined once or twice, then you might end up in prison, right? Because you've been destructive, anti-social and anti-state, right? So therefore, of course, Russian president officially will never agree to give up on Russian territories. But if agreement will be reached to freeze the conflict on the current line of contact, then factually, Kherson and Zaporozhye, significant parts of Kherson and Zaporozhye region will end up being controlled by this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky and by NATO, therefore. So, but yet again, I mean, let's see what is going to happen, because the situation is developing quite strangely, to say the least, isn't it? Rapidly nowadays, and in very strange ways that is difficult to understand with the current level of our knowledge, right? Because our understanding is based on information from open sources, and this information is just a drop in the ocean, right? We need some more information to have a better understanding what is going on. But we would not be in this situation if BRICS countries were more supportive of Russia. I believe there should be talks between China and Russia, India and Russia, South Africa and Russia, Brazil and Russia. Other countries should also talk to Moscow that they will send troops. It's obvious, isn't it, that collective Western ruling class is waging war against us. It's just so obvious that I don't think I have to prove this to anybody. It's obvious, by the way. They pay for it. They send weapons for it. They send their own special forces, by the way. Their intelligence is engaged in this. For manpower, they are using and sacrificing people that are live there in Ukraine. And those people, by the way, are fighting much better than any NATO army can ever fight, right? So, because they are part of Russian world, by the way, and Russian world, people in Russian world knows how to fight and how to die, by the way, if necessary, for a just cause. Unfortunately, people in Ukraine were brainwashed, and they are dying for geopolitical agenda of the West and this criminal regime of Zelensky, these freaking fascists and their Nazis. But, well, it's not just people in Q-control territory that are dealing with the brainwashing, right? Take a look at the collective West, by the way. Majority hates us, Russians, citizens of Russia, and they're everything about Russia. For what reasons exactly? Because they've been brainwashed, by the way. They've been told that they have to hate us. And they do. Majority. So, yes, we would not be in this situation if BRICS member states would provide assistance, as North Korea did, by the way. I mentioned yesterday, isn't it, that Russia did not ask North Korea to send their troops. It's North Korea that said, we will send our troops. And they insisted, by the way, right? They insisted on that. China could do the same. India could do the same. All the other countries, by the way, all the friendly nations. But they did not. They did not, man. Instead of that, Beijing and New Delhi and Pretoria and Brazil and all the other capitals, time and time again, were saying that, well, we are neutral. We are neutral. We want ceasefire, peace. We are angels, and that kind of BS, right? How you are neutral, by the way? Your ally has been attacked by this evil force that Western ruling class is, man. This united evil force. And you are saying that you are neutral? I mean, seriously? And after that, you then dare to say that you are a partner or the friend of Russia? Come on, man. So, I don't know, man. At this point, I think really, BRICS is dead, by the way. Multipolar world is dead. Unfortunately, we as a humanity lost our chance to gain independence from Western influence, and therefore, well, therefore we should be ready for what is about to come, because if you think Western elites were brutal in past 30 years, well, after Soviet Union collapsed, then, well, we will see that we will see in next decades that, well, that was just the beginning, man. That was just the beginning. I see a comment from Oscar Welles. Proof Brodkin deported on Ukrainians. Brodkin reported on Ukrainians aggressively dealing with the basification of Ukrainian men. Any chance of this being a predictor of public revolt against Zelensky, in your opinion, Levan? Unfortunately, it seems like people are just too terrified there on Kiev controlled territory. This basification or forceful mobilization, by the way, when people being kidnapped, literally kidnapped, even from their homes, right, from the streets, from the shops, by the way, shopping malls, training gyms, by the way, and I don't know, from their homes even. This forceful mobilization is taking place for a very, very long time, right? 2023, in 2022, level of indoctrination was so high that there was quite a number of volunteers that were joining Kiev regime's forces. But from 2023, people began little by little realizing that they've been sacrificed, right? They've been greeted as just a cannon fodder. And people start refusing to participate in this, right? And what Kiev regime did, they began a forceful mobilization, and it's already like 2 years plus this forceful mobilization is happening. Every day, by the way, I see so many videos of this forceful mobilization here in Odessa, in Kiev, in Lvov, in Kharkov, just about everywhere, right? I don't even share no more those videos because it's literally daily stuff. That's what is happening always, right? It's not really news at this point. And despite that, people did not revolt, isn't it? People did not revolt there, and one would ask why. And only logical explanation I have is that they are just terrified. Anybody who says anything, by the way, against regime is being visited by these terror forces that Zelensky regime has. SBU, for example, right? There are secret police or secret services. It's like Gestapo, by the way, during the Nazi Germany. And they are terrorizing, literally terrorizing, by the way, those people. And if you will insist on your position, you will get killed. You know, you will be tortured and then killed. That's it. And Kiev regime would not even try much to hide about it because they want people to be terrorized, right? So, unfortunately, I see no indicators, actually, not that many, at least, indicators that that will tell me that soon some major uprising to happen in Kiev controlled territory. No, man, those people are just too terrified. You know. Dylan Thomas is also commenting, do you think Vladimir Putin is going to Alaska to accept unconditional surrender of NATO? If not, I think it's a scam by the Western elites. You know, I think Russian president is going in Alaska because he knows that Russia cannot sustain this war against the collective West in forever terms, right? Another year, another 2 years, yes, maybe another 5 years, by the way, right? But eventually, we all understand that the European economy is going to transfer into European and Western, economy is going to transfer in a full scale mobilization mode, military mobilization mode, and at that point, you know, At that point, they will just flood battlefield with everything, right? They don't have an issue with the manpower. They would not have an issue with their military equipment, right? Now they do, but give it another 3 to 5 years or another couple of years, basically, and they would not have no issues with their military equipment too, or the munition. And maybe calculus of Russian leadership is that, you know what, right now we are probably in the strongest possible position before this full-scale mobilization of the Western economies have happened. And if there is a chance to break some sort of a deal, let's do it. Maybe that's what calculus is on the part of Kremlin. But yet again, question is a trust, isn't it? Trump might say today whatever, and tomorrow he might change his mind. This is also something that we should keep in mind. I mean, it's a mess, man. It's a mess, but there might be some agreement, by the way. There might be some agreement because I explained earlier, isn't it? Why would the U.S. why it will be beneficial for U.S. To break some deal with Russia? Because yet again, Washington will increase its leverage over the Europe and will create leverage over Russia. If Washington will become a middleman, main middleman between, when it comes to Russian export, and they will be in a stronger position. They will, on one hand, have leverage over Russia and Europe, and on the other hand, they will divert resources flow from Russia to global South, which will weaken positions of the global South that they see as a main competitor, right? So it's a win-win situation for US in this regards, right? So therefore, I see potential. Why would these, let's call them America First people, would like to see such a deal or seek such a deal, right? On the other hand, we have quite enough indicators to say that Trump is compromised. Definitely by Israel and most likely by globalists too. So therefore, any agreement that might be reached next Friday in Alaska can be terminated literally after a week due to globalist influence. Or such a meeting, if Washington will ignore demands of the globalists and globalist control regimes in Europe, then in that case, as I already said, and everybody is saying, by the way, in that case, globalists will try to derail these talks in next several days with all sorts of provocations. But Russian president is going in in Alaska, because I guess he thinks that Russia is in a strongest possible position now, and their time is on maybe not on our side, because we are seeing, isn't it, attempts in Europe to militarize European economies. Talk is about some $700 to $800 billion to be allocated for these purposes, on top of 150 billion credit that will be given to European countries to mobilize basically their military industrial complexes, right? And yes, time is not really on our side at this point, especially when we know that BRICS member states not going to help. But Russian president knows perfectly well that it's like 3+ years, isn't it? And except Iran and North Korea, none of them even think about helping us, right? Yes, they are doing business still with Russia. Trade is on high level with China, with India, but this is a trade. This is beneficial for both sides, right? But when it comes to actual help to deal with this assault of the united evil force that Western ruling class is, neither BRICS, nobody did nothing, right? From major players when it comes to multipolar economy or multipolar world or their BRICS. So therefore, I think that's what it is, man. That's the calculus on part of Russian president, that he thinks this is the best time. We are in the best possible position now to reach a deal. Otherwise, in a year or 2 years' time, Western economies, European economies will be on a mobilization mode, and then it will be much more difficult to deal with the situation, right? Because yet again, they don't have an issue with the manpower. They will sacrifice literally everybody on Kiev control territory, literally everybody. And there is some 20 million plus people there, isn't it? Still. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what it is, brother. That's why the Russian president decided that, you know what, let's see if we can make some deal here with Washington. It's a from several potential worst outcomes. Deal with Washington may be less damaging, right? And might give Russia a little bit more time, right? Maybe that's what it is, man. But obviously, I cannot know what is the motivation, actual motivation of Russian president is, and I don't like the idea itself that he is visiting U.S., right? An argument that, well, Alaska was Russian and therefore don't worry about it. It's a Russian territory. It's not Russian territory, but it's U.S. territory. And when there is a fight, historically speaking, there is never a case when winning side is going to sign up for whatever deal on a territory controlled by the losing side. Usually it's opposite, right? Winning side is setting the terms, where and when losing side have to come and sign up agreement, and therefore I hate this idea itself that Russian president is going to Alaska, because we are not losing nothing, by the way, right? Russian militaries are not losing nothing, and that's what makes me upset big time. That's why Russian president is going there, man. There is a number of countries that could actually provide open the door basically and organize such a meeting, but no, decision was to go to Alaska. Okay, you know. Dylan is also commenting, is the Western world dead? I think hope so, and I think live here, hit the West where it hurts, Washington, D.C. Well, Western world is divided, not dead, but divided, because yet again, there is certain forces in U.S., by the way, that don't want to obey orders from the globalists. And these forces in U.S. are quite powerful. Things like and are capable of giving a fight to globalists, right? Which is somewhat surprising, but that's what is happening, as far as I can tell. And if these forces prevail in U.S., by the way, let's call them America First forces or whatever. If these forces will prevail, then U.S. Will actually maintain maybe not a completely dominant position on a geopolitical scale, but a strong position for sure on a geopolitical scale for decades to come. While Europe is doomed, yes, Europe is doomed. I think because yet again, without resources, they cannot. Maintain their even current positions, by the way. they are declining. We leading European economies are in decline, right? And main reason is is that they have they've been built successful based on at least for the last 5 to 7 decades. By the way, they built to reach success based on relatively cheap energy sources from Soviet Union and then Russia, and they were well capable of competing on a world scale, right? But now the situation is changing. They lost Russian energy supplies, and same time they have to compete with emerging global South, by the way, and they are in no position to compete. I mean, they're just losing, right? And that's why globalists are this desperate, by the way, to hit Russia, to harm Russia, to divide Russia, because they want these resources. They want Russian resources, by the way, to maintain their dominance, or at least a strong position on a geopolitical scale. And that's why I think they would not stop. They just would not stop. No matter what kind of agreements will be reached there between, let's say, Moscow and Washington, globalists and their control regimes in Europe will continue to fight Russia. Either through this proxy war, but even if, let's say, conflict will be froze, they will come up with some other means to fight Russia, harm Russia as much as they can, right? Because it seems like this is their main priority, to destroy Russia, basically, and establish control over the resources here. That's what they want, and until they are not stopped physically, they will continue. No matter what kind of agreements might be in place between Moscow and Washington, and Moscow and any other capital from this world. Globalists or European elites, let's say, are not stopping, by the way. They will continue, and if they succeed, well, that's very bad news for Russia and the rest of the humanity. But I think they will not be successful. They will lose. And that means give it 20, 30 years, and modern Europe will become either loosely relevant or completely irrelevant part of Eurasia. It's just, that's how it's going to be. No, today I am much more calm, isn't it, that I was yesterday? Yesterday I was, yesterday I was furious, but today I'm a bit calm because I said everything that I had to say yesterday. I shared my take on the situation, and I released steam, let me say that way, and I'm a bit calm today. So after all, what can we do, man? What ordinary people can do about anything, actually, that is happening. I'm scrolling different, sir. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, do you watch Indian Air Chief briefing? You master. Oh, I will take a look at it. All I read in past 24 to 48 hours in regards to Indian military is that I believe India plans to acquire additional S-400s, right? But when it comes to Air Force, I will take a look at that. Did he said something about, I don't know, buying Russian Su-57 maybe or something? That would be interesting. And also Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, you look drained out today. Yes, Nidish. First of all, we are for a few weeks, isn't it, here in North Ossetia, Alanya. We are visiting my mom, me and my family, and for my kids, it's a summer holiday. It's not for me though, isn't it? I work every day. I'm coming up with updates every day, so I have to be focused on that. Same time, as I said earlier, we decided to rent a new flat for my mom, more comfortable and so on. And we are working on that. And this move, by the way, is a quite a nerve-breaking stuff, isn't it? From one place to another, and we are in a process. We are in a process. It is tiring, actually, and yes, I'm a bit exhausted. So yes, your observation is absolutely correct. Um, Once we will go back to Moscow, I will find my usual rhythm of work, and it will be better then, right? But yeah. Don Zugar is commenting or asking if Putin is assassinated during his Alaska trip, will Maria Sharapova step into the job? Sharapova? You mean Zakharova, maybe? Uh, will Maria, let's say Zakharova, you meant, will step into the job of prime minister? No, man. How you managing to come up with such ideas? Zakharova is a spokesperson of foreign ministry, um, high-ranking diplomat, by the way, for sure. But um, you know, prime minister and president is a little different, or big time different. Also, Dylan Thomas is commenting the Wolfowitz doctrine was returned when the USA was their sole superpower. It means if all now, I mean, after Soviet Union collapsed, by the way, whole world experienced what unilateral control of the collective West means, right? And dozens of countries, by the way, tens of millions of people, hundreds of millions of people actually experience on themselves what unchallenged Western dominance is, and therefore, especially therefore, BRICS member states should be more supportive of Russia, by the way, in this struggle, and they did nothing, right? All you hear from them is, "Oh, we are neutral. We are neutral." Why you are neutral, man? Why you are neutral? That's the question I have. But they're gonna find out now. By the way, they're gonna face maybe even much more serious challenges than we are facing when it comes to relationships with the West. And let's see how they would like when other countries will begin saying that, well, we are not getting involved, we are neutral. They're not gonna like it, but it will be just too late. Together, world community had the chance to give a decent aid. Separately, not really. It is what it is. Oh, it's 1 hour and 40 minutes, almost. Just do this commenting. Ukraine is a US asset since the 90s, and there you find all the papers how to undermine Russia and finally take over all their countries east of Germany. Brian Burletic always shows the round papers. Yes, Brian Burletic is I mean, every time I watch his videos, by the way, and I do watch on regular basis his videos. It's a new Atlas channel, by the way. If some members of our community are not familiar about whom we are talking about, so there is a new Atlas channel, and Brian Burletic is author of this channel, Anchor. He does great job, by the way. He does great service to public. We might sometimes agree with his take on the situation, sometimes not, but he's doing great service, by the way, to public, that's for sure. Under this video in the recommendation list, in description box, by the way, you can find my recommendation list of the channels that I follow. Dozen or two channels there, including Brian Burletic's channel. I definitely recommend, as are every other channels, by the way, there. So yes, I mean, you are on point there, isn't it? I just saw question, and I missed it, man. How? Engelman is commenting, Odessa will always be Russian and should be Russian, by the way. Odessa is a Russian-built city, right? It's a Russian city culturally and every way possible, and should be Russian, 100%, and hopefully will be Russian Federation, right? I may not be as optimistic now as I was like a couple of weeks ago, even that there will be referendums in Kharkov, Nikolaev, Odessa regions, other regions, and people will have opportunity to decide for themselves about their own future. And I was quite sure that, and I'm still sure, by the way, that people there will decide to separate from this creation of the Bolsheviks that Ukraine is, and to join Russian Federation. But as time goes by the way, I mean, due to recent developments, including this meeting in Alaska, I'm not that sure that these people there, locals in these regions, will get such opportunity to actually express opinions in the referendum. We have to liberate those territories first, by the way, militarily. And if we are about to observe freezing of the conflict, then who knows when and how fate of these regions will be decided, let's say this way. But I'm with you, absolutely. Odessa is a Russian city, always will be a Russian city. No matter how hard their global control regimes and their proxy terrorists in Kiev are gonna try to terrorize people of Odessa region and Odessa, and force them to forget about their heritage and their roots. I see a question from Ramplancer 01. Levan, I don't agree with this new plan. Russia is winning. Why they should stop without taking Odessa? The British will take it for themselves permanently and be bad for Russia. Yet again, we don't know what is going to happen. Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. I have said everything, by the way, that I think about these subjects yesterday and today. Yet again, maybe Russian president agree on the talks now with Washington, because he thinks we are now in our strongest possible position, right? And as time goes by, and as Western economies will accelerate their militarization, situation might become more difficult for Russia, right? So maybe Putin's calculus is that now, while we are still like on top of the game, let's do some deal now, right? And escalate. Maybe this is the calculus. I don't know. I don't know what is happening, but we should keep in mind, dear friends, that in the long term, because BRICS member states are not actually helping us, right? Militarily, we need military help, right? Moscow may never say this, right? Moscow may never openly ask BRICS member states or the countries that are considered themselves to be friendly to Russia to provide military assistance. I don't know why, but probably Moscow would not say it. But it would be nice, because this is a fight for, or this was a fight for humanity, in my personal opinion, because good was versing evil, right? Russia is good and the Western ruling class is evil, and this fight was an existential fight for whole of humanity, and therefore world should stand with us, right? But all we hear is how neutral they are. So okay, if you are neutral, then we will do whatever is better for based on current situation, and well, probably Moscow will do some deal now with Washington, and that will mean official death of BRICS and multipolar world. You know, Russia not going to withdraw from BRICS, I don't think, but organization quite effectively will be dead after that, because yet again, US will become Russia's main trade partner, but in many ways, right? And no one can say that this would not influence Russian policies. Of course it will, of course. But yet again, let's see. Maybe globalists that are not happy with their current situation will actually come up with some provocations and will derail these talks. Risk is there. Risk is very high. So we should wait and see what's going to happen. Ivan, what are political ramifications for Putin if he does not meet his objectives in this meeting? Well, we don't even know what Putin's objectives are, really. We don't really know what is his calculus, why he agreed on this meeting. That's the issue that I have, for example, because we have to guess. We have to guess because we just simply don't know, right? Nothing was said to Russian public by either Russian president or press spokesman of the Russian president. What agreement was prepared by the teams of two countries that now presidents of two countries are actually meeting? Do they meeting just for a meeting itself, or actually there is some agreements in place? Usually that's what is the case, isn't it? Teams of two countries are working, preparing some agreements, then presidents are meeting and finalizing the agreements, making final signs and so on. That's how usually things are done. But in this particular case, we don't know almost nothing, or literally nothing, right? So therefore, we don't even know what objectives Putin has. So therefore, there will be most likely no ramifications, even if this meeting will turn out to be just for meeting for a meeting. Like press op. They will make some pictures, exchange some opinions, handshakes, and okay, that's about it. Maybe that's all we're gonna see about it, right? And still there will be no ramifications for that, because society, to have some expectations, has to have some knowledge about the matter, isn't it? And we don't know nothing. So therefore we have no expectations, and because of the absence of the expectations, we cannot be too critical, right? if nothing positive will come out from this meeting, because you know, that's how it is, man. Так, I'm scrolling, your friends, looking for your questions. Dan Boy is commenting, what is wrong with the Russian leadership? Instead of not stopping until Ukraine wholly is unfeed, unified with Russia, they are giving away a clear victory. Yet again, Dan Boy, we don't know what is gonna happen in that meeting. And I'm thinking about it for last 48 hours, right? And yet again, only explanation that I come up with is that maybe, yet again, I'm repeating this like, I don't know, third time or something. Maybe a calculus of Russian president is, as I said, that Europe is militarizing, right? European economy is militarizing, which will have an impact on a battlefield at one point, right? And now, until Russia is on the top of the game, maybe this is the time to have a deal with US, right? To somehow try to minimize potential harm that globalists might cause, right? And maybe this is the calculus of Russian president, because he knows perfectly well that BRICS member states not gonna support Russia militarily. Now, if BRICS member states supported us in past 3.5 years militarily, then situation would be very different. But because they are constantly saying how neutral they are, well, Russia has to operate on objective reality, right? Which is that once Western economies are fully mobilized, once Western military-industrial complex is fully mobilized, then situation going to become tremendously difficult for Russia, right? And why should we wait for that? If we are fighting this fight alone, then maybe we should, by the way, we should seek deal until we are in a stronger position. If it will work, okay. If not, then, well, if fight is inevitable, we will fight, right? I don't know yet again, man. I don't know what the hell is going on. I'm not going to pretend that I know any better than you know, or anyone else, by the way. I never claim to be an expert in anything, right? I only I'm working in this field. I decided to work in this field because I had like 30 plus years experience with journalism, right? I study on the journalism faculty in university. And I'm familiar with this field of news, right? News and political commentary. That's the only reason I'm doing this stuff, by the way. That's the only reason why I dare to start this work, because it was, when I think about it, it was quite difficult, by the way, and only thanks to encouragement from members of our community, I'm still here, and support, because it is very important, obviously. But I'm not going to pretend, dear friends, that I know anything any better than you do, sometimes I may be spot on, sometimes don't. But what I will try to do always is to provide you with the content, interesting content, and so that when you watch my videos, you will know what topics have been discussed in Russian media, in Russian public, and what attitude towards this topic or that topic society has in Russia. And I never pretend to represent anybody except myself. But if I think about certain developments this way, for example, then chances that it's only me in these 145 million people that thinks that way is like zero, right? Probably many other people also think similar way. So this will give you some better understanding, better insight, right? How we see things and how we operate. And that is something positive, right? That's the reason why I am subscribed to many channels from all over the world, right? Because I want to hear opinion of these people, true opinion, real emotions, right? Because it is impossible that only those people, those commentators, let's say, are thinking that way. Most likely, significant number of their societies are also on the same page, isn't it? And that gives me a little better understanding. You know. I feel blood pressure is increasing, by the way. Maybe that's why I might look little, tired today. Although I'm tired too. But these freaking magnetic storms, by the way, every other week, man. It's just something. I'm scrolling the friends. My apologies if I miss your question. Uh, I want to see as many comments as I can, and therefore I pay a special attention to either capital Q or capital letters to realize that this is a comment that addressed to me. Antonic is commenting, Levan, you know that saying fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, right? That's how it continues. Yes, it does make sense, isn't it? It does make sense, and this is your comment, and this say is definitely one of the reasons why I think Western ruling class cannot be trusted at all, in all circumstances, right? And that's why I think it's going to be very difficult for Russian president to make any decisions based on whatever conversation or agreements him and Trump gonna have, because how he can know if Trump was honest or not? How he gonna know if Trump will honor anything or not? He cannot know it, right? He just cannot. And what is the point then to have a meeting itself? I have no idea. Right, I have no idea, but yet again, maybe let's wait and see, man. Let's wait and see. I think, I think, dear friends, that we would be in a much better position. I mean, Russia, if Russian president didn't exercise restraint constantly for these 3+ years, especially after March-April negotiations were derailed by the collective West. Istanbul talks, basically. First Istanbul talks in 2022, and there was at least several occasions, by the way, when Western provocation was on such a scale that Russia should strike back on Western military assets, right? And that will bring them to their senses. I mean, Western ruling elites. And if Russia did retaliate, I think we would not see further escalation from the West. But Russia did not strike back, and therefore, as a result of this constant restraint, which could be understood at certain point, but eventually this constant restraint began, I think, began encouraging Western ruling class, began encouraging globalists to escalate further and further, right? Because now they think we are all bluffing. Probably that's what they think, that Russian leadership was bluffing, Russia is bluffing, and they can do literally anything. And by the way, they are practically doing everything they want. I mean, just a couple of months ago, 2 months ago, isn't it? Something they attacked Russian nuclear triad. That should be untouchable, right? Because it's nuclear triad. So I mean, this restraint was a mistake, I think, right? But now we have to. Our policies have to be based on the current reality, right? We would be in a different reality and a better situation, I think, in a better position if Russian leadership used extreme force to bring Western elites to their senses, right? 2 years ago, 3 years ago, even 1 year ago, but it did not happen. And now our policies have to be based on current realities in which we are facing increased militarization of the collective West, and alone against the 40 plus countries, we just don't really have much chances. We can fight and die in this fight, right? But what chances one country can have against 40 plus countries, right? And because BRICS member states, because this so-called emerging multipolar world is doing nothing to help Russia, then, well, I guess in this case, it does make sense if Russian leadership will seek some sort of agreement, if Russian leadership will play on divisions inside the Western ruling class and will try to reach some agreement in Washington, even if it is a highly risky business to have a deal with Washington, but it's better than nothing. Maybe that's what calculus is, man, at this point. I don't know. Also, left side crew is asking, is U.S. request for peace talks with Russia linked to Israel announcement to annex Gaza? I don't think so. I don't think so. What could be linked is that I remind you, dear friends, that Russian president had 2 phone conversations with Netanyahu during their 7-day period, right? It was last week or something. I reported about both these phone conversations, isn't it, Ender? I said at the time that it is quite strange, right, that Russian president had 2 phone conversations during the week with Netanyahu. I was wondering why. I mean, what the hell, right? And I speculated at the time that maybe Russian president that used to have, and maybe he still has good personal relationships with Netanyahu. Maybe he asked him to use what leverage Israel has over Trump to basically do some business, right? To reach some agreement between their sides and kind of isolate globalists and globalist controlled regimes in Europe from their processes, right? And maybe something like that did happen. And I said many times before, I think Trump is compromised, and first of all by Israel, right? So maybe there is something similar that had happened, right? Because after those phone calls, we see significant change in trajectory of the Washington, which was extremely hostile. There was a Trump's ultimatum in place, right, that expired on 8th of August, but and there was expectations, and I was also expecting that we will see some massive escalation but nothing happened. So maybe these phone calls of Russian president with Netanyahu actually play some role in this regard. But when it comes to topic of Israeli occupation of Gaza and current developments between Washington and Moscow, I don't think they are directly connected. William Galchrist is commenting, quite Sullivan, our puppeteer figureheads are one thing, but their hands inside them are quite another. Destroy that, and their authentic, positive possibilities may rise. Yeah, I mean, yes, that's the one way to go for sure. Thank you for your comment, William. Oh, it's more than 2 hours, by the way. We do have a quite a good community chat today, isn't it? Sorry, dear friends, I may be a little tired today, not that energetic, but nevertheless, hopefully, I'm providing interesting opinions, interesting content. And if so, dear friends, please click that like button, and if you can leave some commentary after stream ends in a comment section, it might help to deal with the algorithm, especially on YouTube, where my channel is in shadow ban, as you know, and it is really, really difficult to reach wider audience there. Even members of our community very rarely receiving notifications, by the way. Maybe 2-3% of our community does receive notification, and that's about it. I see a question. Spider OK is asking, does Russia send the representatives to the World Economic Forum? When? It depends when, which time frame you mean. If you mean this year, I don't know. I don't think Russian delegations are participating in the World Economic Forum for quite a number of years now. But earlier, a decade ago, situation was different, and yes, Russian delegations were participating in all sorts of gatherings of the WEF. Yeah, I believe the Russian president himself also was participating. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe the Russian president himself was participating in some of the gatherings of the WEF too, but long time ago. Since then, many things have changed. But now, I don't think our official Russian delegations are participating in a World Economic Forum. I don't think so. Some businessmen that are invited, maybe, but I don't think there are high-ranking Russian officials there for many years now. And dear friends, let me end this stream now, if I may. We did have a good communication, isn't it? More than 2 hours. I tried my best, dear friends, not to miss question. My apologies if I did not react on your question. But we had a good conversation. I think. Thank you all for your attention, for your support. Have a wonderful day, great weekend, and take care. And see you tomorrow.